Hello everybody and welcome to another hobby cheating video, and today we're going to talk all about how to get back at that desk and get painting. That's right, today we talk about motivation. Let's get into it.
The strict technomancer that is Vincey V. Let us get to the technique and learn it, Vincey V.
Maybe you found yourself in the same position I am right now. And that is, you're in the middle of a big project. I happen to be working on this really big display project. You can see how it's coming along here. It's these wonderful two figures. It's called Snakeheart from Brahm. And I'm really excited about sort of what I'm doing with it, but it's big. This will be 200, 300 hours by the time it's all done. And honestly, it's a bit trying. Like, it can be hard to sit down at the desk and go back into it. You might have experienced the same thing working on a display project of your own, or maybe an army. And sometimes it can feel like you've got so much of the road left to go, it's just hard to sit down and get painting. Maybe you're just looking for the inspiration, the motivation in general, and whatever you're working on just isn't lighting your fire. Well, today I have 3 tips for you to get you back at the desk and get you painting. And none of them are you have to make a weekly video for this channel. That does often motivate me. All right, let's head over to the desk and I'll talk you through it. Okay, tip number 1. I've mentioned this before on the channel, but it's worth reiterating and talking about it a little more. And that is, you should generally have 2 projects going on. There's a lot of psychological research that shows that people who are generally working on 2 and no more than 2 projects are much more productive than those working on a single project or those working on like 5 or more at the same time. The reason for that is probably fairly obvious. If you get weighed down, bored, distracted, tired, whatever of the primary project, you can switch to the alternative, hopefully lighter, simpler, easier, or just other project and continue moving forward. When it comes to the world of miniature painting, my general advice for that is pick a smaller, other side experimental project, a single figure, something you want to paint for fun, whatever, and work on that. For example, recently I tackled that Terminator you saw in the video in previous weeks. And I was really excited to just paint that figure. I love painting those Terminators. Those new ones that came in the box, I think, are some of my favorite Space Marines. I just think they're really cool. I got to use a bunch of new tools, more on that in just a moment. But also, it was just a great distraction. It let me sit down and paint very quickly, not a lot of time, and get something done, get that dopamine hit, that sense of accomplishment that I had done something that I was missing from the longer project where I've got to go really great lengths of time and put in a lot of effort before I feel that same sense of reward. Whether it's a single figure or a couple of figures or, something that's been sitting in your pile of opportunity for a long time, switching up and working on something smaller, fun, fast, and something you can most importantly experiment on is going to really pay a lot of dividends, as you will get that hit and find yourself much more ready to go back to the table and get back to your main project. As a point of fact, right after this, I then managed to continue up on the main central figure, I guess one of the 2, the Barbarian, and get him done. Here's how he's looking right now. I think he's coming along pretty cool, but we've got a lot of road still to go. That brings me to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is try something new. So this often goes very well hand in hand with the first one. So when you're painting that other small project and doing some experimentation, try something new. What do I mean by thing? Okay, well, it could be a new paint you've wanted to try for a while. Go to the hobby store, pick up a new brand, a couple of paints, give them a shot, see if you like them. In this case, I got to experiment with those cool markers. So that was a lot of fun, right? So it could be new brushes, new paints, new tools, a new airbrush, a new way to filter, a new anything, playing with sponges, whatever. It literally doesn't matter. Getting out your streaking grime for the first time, messing with oil paints. Like, there's 1,000 examples of weird, fun things to do in this hobby. It could be making a cool giant base out of a craft project, right? Or working a cool big piece of terrain and having to do all the different stuff there because you cut it from scratch. Like, you literally start from scratch with some pink foam and make yourself an awesome piece of terrain. All of these things are possible. But the point is is that they give you a reason to sit down and work. And so I find that experimenting with those new tools is just something that I really like to do. It makes me, it recharges my batteries. I love playing with new stuff. Now, as a slight warning here, you know, there's sort of a gear obsession in our hobby. Often getting new gear, getting different tools does not instantly make you a better painter or anything like that. That's not what's going to happen. It can be the case that you find a new tool and a new purpose for it, and that it's the right tool for the right job, as we also talked about in that Space Marine video. But the reality is that why you're using it here is because it's a great way to, again, get that sense of excitement going, that sense of wonder and exploration that is supposed to come with this hobby just going again in your bloodstream, right? And so experimenting with those new things can help get you back at the table, because now you're excited to try that new thing. And once you're get rolling and your battery's recharged, you're then ready to go back to the big project again. In fact, if you're lucky, you might even find a way to use that new tool that you experimented with, be it a new paint or a new brush or a new technique or whatever, on your main project and elevate it up to the next level. So you can even accelerate your main project or whatever you happen to be working on by doing this experimentation and trying these new tools and techniques. It really is a fun way to go, and frankly, I love experimenting with all new stuff, as I'm sure you know from the hobby cheating on this channel, and that's going to just continue here. Don't worry, we've got a lot more stuff coming in the future as I continue to play with every weird tool I can find. My recent video on 5 weird tools you might be using, you might need, but might not be using yet, is linked up in the corner right now, so hey, check that out when you're done with this. All right, last tip, find a new obsession. So sometimes in the middle of a big project, it's appropriate to find some new obsession to get you going again. What I mean by this is, could be a new skirmish game, a new skirmish force, some small group of figures. For me recently, this was finding Trench Crusade. So I really think the game is super cool. Uncle Adam and I are going to talk about it soon. Maybe we already have by the point this airs. I don't remember when it's in the schedule. But we're going to talk about Trench Crusade on Snarlcast, our indie RPG podcast. You can find that linked below if you want to hear Uncle Adam and I talk every other week about cool indie RPGs, rules, and fun indie RPG games we play. But anyways, Trench Crusade I am pretty interested in. I still haven't settled on a particular skirmish force, but I wanted to get more work on my Heretic Legion done, so I'm just working on the next fig here. And this was really a combination of kind of everything I've talked about so far. It was painting a one-off figure. It was experimenting with new tools. You can see I'm using weird markers and stuff here, and I'm trying to combine them with contrast paints in weird and unusual ways where I'm like wiping the contrast paint away to try to stain it and see what happens. So it's just a bunch of weird experimentation all at once in a fast, free way. And because it's just a skirmish force, in fact, probably not even the one I'm actually going to play, because I'm just kind of painting a couple of the models from each force to see which ones I ultimately like the most. It gives me, it frees me from the shackles of like, oh, this has to look really good, it has to be highly polished, you know, whatever, right? Basically, I get to like take off the manacles that we put on ourselves of expecting ourselves to paint at our highest capability or level. Instead, I just get to sit down, sling some paint, play with some new toys, and in the end, have some figs for a cool game that I want to play. It is truly a win-win-win. And it really did help as I've worked on this big project consistently throughout the time that I was doing all this other stuff you see in this video, to have these little projects that when I sit down, or I'm on my lunch break or whatever, I've got 30 minutes, I just don't have the motivation to go back to the big project. It's okay. Here I am, I have got a little thing, boom, I grab it, I do some quick work, I mess around, I have some fun, I experiment, I use a new tool, I try a new technique, and I have something done at the end of it. I get that awesome charge that like, yes, I have completed something, I'm one more fig down, and I, in this case, I'm one fig closer to hopefully determining what the heck I'm going to play in Trench Crusade. We'll see. Stay tuned on the channel as I probably paint more figs from more of the skirmish forces in the coming months. But anyways, the last little bonus tip I want to say on the way out here is sometimes the right answer is to quit your main project. And that's a weird piece of motivation and advice, I suppose. But realistically, if doing all these things I've talked about in this video, if you do those and you have fun and you're excited, but then you're just still not wanting to go back to the main thing, that's probably telling you something. And the reality is, it's okay. It's okay to set a big project aside, to quit working on something, to decide you no longer want to go down some road. There is no shame in it. There's nothing wrong with it. I think sometimes we all hold ourselves to a standard that we can't quit until eventually it just beats us down and we get angry, and sometimes we walk away from the hobby for some amount of time because a project just wore us down and we felt like, well, it's not worth sitting at the desk if I'm not working on that thing. Nonsense. Put that project to the side. Find something completely new, something that does excite you, something that gets your energy flowing, right, again, and paint on that instead. The reality is that sometimes a big project just was never destined to meet its end. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It just means you're human, like all the rest of us. I have had projects that I started and just said, you know what? I'm done. And that's okay. You can too. All right. Well, with that, I'll say thank you so much for watching. I hope these tips were helpful. If they were, hey, why don't you give it a like or subscribe? We've got new hobby cheating videos here every Saturday. We'll get back to the painting desk and more active painting and techniques next week. If you want to support the channel, there's lots of ways you can do so. You can hit up those other podcasts like Fireball the Gazebo, the RPG podcast I do with Ninjon, or Snarlcast, the aforementioned indie RPG podcast I do with Uncle Adam. Both are linked down below. There's also, of course, the games Uncle Adam and I make. If you want to pick up some new hobby supplies or cool tools to experiment with, hey, look down there. There's a bunch of affiliate links. Doesn't cost you anything extra. In fact, it often saves you money, and it really is a great help for the channel. There's also, of course, our Patreon, focused on review and feedback and taking your next step on your hobby journey. As always, though, I thank you so much for watching this one, and we'll see you next time.